Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Saturday edition of Morning Scone presented by, not Saturday, Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Clinic, Hutco Roofing, HutcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProChargeEV.com. All right, y'all. Is game day, Saints and Lions. Saints get to ruin another Sunday for us. I don't see a single matchup in this game that favors New Orleans. But we'll wait and see. We'll get into that. My guess is most of you are probably going to want to talk about the college football playoff drama, which we're just, it's 9:39. So we're 2 hours and 21 minutes away from finding out what the committee has decided. And I will yet again, for the final time actually, get to sit here and remind you why the college football playoff as it is structured currently is bogus, and why we are all, as the collective college football loving world, deserving of a real playoff, which we will get closer to next year with a 12-team format. Can we all agree that it is kind of dumb? So you have Georgia. Georgia goes a two-time defending national champion, the standard of college football. Undefeated, 29 or 30 game winning streak, whatever it was. Undefeated the regular season. They go play a made-for-TV championship game that's nothing more than a money grab. And they lose to the greatest coach of all time. And a Bama team that's playing as good as anybody right now. Happens. So that team, which was number one in the country, ranked number one, undefeated, goes into the conference championship game, loses the conference championship game. They don't even get to play for a national championship. They don't even get the opportunity to go into a postseason to defend their championship. Yet Kirby Smart trying to lobby for his team to get in. So Alabama, they're 11-1. They beat the number one team in the country and this win the toughest league in America and this 30-game win streak, whatever it is Georgia has. And they have to lobby for the right to get into a postseason. Texas, which went 11-1, beat the aforementioned Alabama team in their stadium, won its conference championship. They have to lobby to get into a playoff? Florida State won literally every game it played this year, including beating LSU, and just won its conference championship with its third-string quarterback. They won every game. All of the games they played, they won. And they have to lobby to try to get into a playoff? Do you, it's why I've always pushed back against this notion that people say, well, every week in college football is a playoff. Tell that to Florida State today. Well, Georgia should have beaten Alabama then. Oh, really? Because Michigan got to play Iowa. How would it have gone if Michigan had to play Bama or Georgia? Come on. Every week is a playoff. Bull crap. That's why if it were a playoff, you would have results that mattered. You wouldn't have coaches and fan bases lobbying today to get into a playoff. And I know the counter argument, what it always is. Well, next year, teams 13, 14, 15 are going to be complaining. And I am, great, go to 16, which is actually the perfect number for a playoff in college football. But because you're going to have teams that are ranked in the teens that are really good teams that maybe struggled early, played a tough schedule, but are certainly capable of winning. Iowa, after their loss last night, is ranked 16th. Arizona, really impressive team. They're 15th. LSU's 13th. You think anybody wants to play Jaden Daniels? Anyway, my point is, I'll be far less sympathetic to teams 13, 14, 15 than I am to teams 5, 6, 7, especially when right now, we're waiting on the college football playoff rankings, and I mean, Florida State, Oregon, Ohio State. Ohio State's a one loss. Ohio State goes undefeated. They lose the last game of the season to Michigan. They're not worthy of making a playoff? What if whenever the NFL season ended, we said, you know what? Let's scrap this whole playoff model we got. Let's just get some old beat writers and some former players. Let's just get them in a room and let them decide what 4 teams get to go play for it. It's an absurd notion. Yet we've allowed ourselves, not we, because that includes me, a lot of you have allowed yourselves to be convinced by the spin doctors that that's what makes college football great. No, it's not. That's what ruins college football. Give me a real playoff. Georgia deserves to be in. Bama deserves to be playing for a playoff. Texas, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, they all deserve to be playing for a championship. They've all been good enough. Go decide it on the field. I don't care what those dopes in that hotel think. All right, let's say some good mornings. Kelly Gross, good morning. Ryan DeLon, good morning. Do you have a prediction for the CFP? No one will have a prediction, because a prediction, Ryan, would suggest that I know what they're going to do. And I have no idea what they're going to do. I'll tell you what, if I had to pick a 4, the SEC, unfortunately, would be out, because games on the field have to matter. And Texas and Alabama played, and Texas won in Tuscaloosa, and Florida State won all of their games. So it should be Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Florida State. That should be the 4. Now, the 2 best teams in the country are Bama and Georgia. And it's absurd that you're going to have a playoff and crown a champion when the best teams aren't even in it. It's this is the point I made forever. And now, thank God, so many of you will probably, you're going to see it now, because it's actually going to affect your program, because I could flip it and say, but by the grace of God, there go I. I mean, what if that were LSU? What if LSU were Georgia or Bama this year and didn't get a look? And you're like, played in the SEC, had 1 loss, and we're going to get left out because Texas blew out Oklahoma State? You know what I mean? Yes, you are. Or you should, but we'll see. If Florida State gets left out today, if they put in Bama, which they may, if they put in Bama and leave out Florida State, that will be one of the biggest farces in the history of sports. I mean, the fact that you could win every game you play. This is what I've said all the time about college football. People say college football has the most meaningful regular season. I've argued the contrary. It's at the most meaningless regular season, because no matter what happens in the regular season, you're going to just leave it open to interpretation of people in a committee room. And it's the only sport in the history of mankind where you can literally win every game you play and not even have a chance to play for a championship. Happened to Auburn back in 2004. Oklahoma and USC got to play for the championship. Auburn won every game they played, didn't even get a chance to play for a championship. Now, it was before it went to the 4 team, but now that you have a 4 team, you have the same thing. It's a shame, bro. It's a shame. Jamie Leday, Brant Roban, what's going on? Stephen Smith, TK Brown, Michael Cook. Good morning, y'all. Let's see. Brock TV, Jacob Thompson, Jesse Kyle. Who's your top 4? I just told you my top. See, but and here's the difference. If you're asking who are the 4 best teams, well, Bama and Georgia are among the 4 best teams, undeniably. If you're talking about who's the 4 most deserving, you can't leave out an undefeated Florida State. And Texas and Bama have the same record. They played head-to-head. They have the same record. They're conference champions. They played head-to-head in Tuscaloosa, and Texas won it. Texas should be in. So I would have Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Florida State. Those would be my 4. If I had a vote, which I don't. And nobody should, because it shouldn't come down to a vote. It should just be... it should be a playoff where teams that are in a playoff berth get to go play in a playoff. Michael Tolliver, good morning. Nick L., good morning. Matthew Vincent, Wendell Norman, Ernest Gray. Are we going to after Raymond? Oh, maybe you're saying, are we going to go after, or after Corey Raymond? Are we going after Corey Raymond? I don't know. Should. Tiger Diver. Amigo Tez. Rumors floating around Steeples got canned. You heard anything? I'll tell you what I heard before the last game, which was that there was going to be, there was pressure for there to be a defensive staff overhaul. And not only do I think and yes, Steeples is one of the names I heard. I also think, don't be surprised if you hear of another coach or coaches that are potentially interviewing for other jobs or leave for other jobs. I'll remind you, number one, coaching is very transient. So coaches often leave, look for better jobs, opportunities, whatever. Number two, if an agent is doing his job, he should always be looking for more money, better opportunity for his client. And number three, a lot of coaches try to stay ahead of their resume, meaning if you think you might get fired, then you go find another job and you leave before you get fired. That's called staying ahead of your resume, because it's easier to hire someone away from someplace instead of getting fired and then looking for a job when you don't have anything to fall back on, if that makes sense. Mason Batts, Todd Harris, Leon Williams, Jesse Brown, morning Matt, what bowl game did the Tigers get? Yeah, so I'm going to assume LSU's going to the ReliaQuest. The opponent's going to be interesting because it's long been thought that it would be LSU against Notre Dame in the ReliaQuest. Notre Dame, depending on what happens with the ACC, could end up going to the Orange Bowl. And if that happens, then you'd probably see LSU play a Big Ten opponent, maybe Iowa. Michigan and Ohio State would be in the New Year's Six. Iowa, I guess, could potentially go to the Capital One, not Capital One, Citrus Bowl. Sorry, Old Habits Die Hard. But LSU is most likely, and I haven't made a call this morning, so I really don't know. I slept in, woke up, made my coffee, and I started doing this, so I haven't made a call about bowls. But it seemed like that was going to be LSU's most likely destination. Trivia Carter, good morning. It's Tank Day. Logan, 2019. Matt, do you know if there's any head coaching interest for Mike Denbrock? No. I do not believe there's head coaching interest for Mike Denbrock. Who, by the way, is going to be in, I think in Little Rock tomorrow for the Broyles Award presentation. I believe it's tomorrow. It's Monday. So I hope he wins it. He deserves to win it. But no, I know I've talked about Denbrock a good bit here, but for those that haven't heard it, you typically don't see guys, and this isn't just necessarily an age thing, but when you're 60 and you've never been a head coach, you're typically not pushing for that opportunity. Similarly, it's not to say that Denbrock wouldn't become a head coach. Like, I will say this, I believe there was at least service level interest in the Cincinnati job last year when Luke Fickell left. Because remember, Denbrock came here from Cincinnati. And when Fickell left to go to Wisconsin, there was interest in bringing Denbrock back there. And I think he might have even interviewed for the job. But I don't think, like, Denbrock's not going to go take a G5 opportunity somewhere, less money, move his family again, all this stuff, just to go be a head coach. Like, if there were a situation like with Brent Venables, where he's the DC at Clemson and gets the Oklahoma job, I believe he'd take that. But I don't know that opportunity is there. Hey, Dad. Good morning, Matt Lusto. Good morning from Cancun. Okay. Austin Kidder, thankfully, this is the last year we have to see a deserving team left out. Mentions 04 Auburn. Brad David, I think the Lions will be mad and go off on the Saints. I agree. Guy Brooks, good morning. What do you expect to see in the Saints game today? I have no faith in the offensive play calling. Yeah, I agree, Guy. I talked about it on AFR on Friday. I don't know that there's a single matchup in this game where I would favor New Orleans. Now, the Lions' defense has been susceptible of late, but I don't know that the Saints' offense is able to capitalize. And remember, you've got Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell over there, and the Saints just faced a former assistant who is now a DC in Atlanta with Ryan Nielsen, and that didn't go great. So I kind of look and I say, man, that's probably advantage Aaron Glenn and the Lions defensively. So I don't. The only thing is that the game's in the Dome. That's the only thing. I mean, the Lions even have a long week, right? Because they played on Thanksgiving, so they had extra days to get healthy. Cam Jordan's a game time decision today. I saw Nick Underhill tweet earlier today that he's been told Olave will play, which is a big boost because you're not going to have Michael Thomas. I haven't seen the inactives yet, so I don't know. Or they haven't been posted yet, so we'll see about Rashid Shaheed, but not great. Handsome Joe, good morning. Tay needs a huge day today. Oh, Taysom Hill. You said Tay. I was thinking Taylor Swift because that's what Erica says, but Tay. H-Town Creole, good morning. LSU, Acadiana, good morning. If they leave out Florida State, that'd be a travesty. Yes. Is this the show? It's 10 a.m. Oh, that's not. Oh, it's in an hour. Okay. Larry Garner, Call the Cat. What's going on? Anything on Chris playing today? Yeah. So I mean, again, just Nick Underhill just tweeted a bit ago that he was told Chris Olave is playing. We'll see. Steven was a good weekend to get COVID, I guess. Just watch football. Let's see. Florida State should be in. Guy Brooks, when do you fly to New York for the Heisman? Leaving Thursday. So I'm going to fly Thursday. And we're talking about going Friday morning, but I couldn't get a flight. It was just going to be really, really, really pushing it to get a flight into LaGuardia and then to be able to get over to the show. I mean, if anything goes wrong, right? Like, you miss your connection, there's a delay, whatever. There's a traffic jam, trying to get over the Queensboro Bridge, whatever. Like, then I could be late for the show. It's like, why are you going? So I'm going to leave Thursday. I'll do the show there. I'll do AFR Friday. And then Saturday we'll do our specialty show. So we'll do the Heisman show Saturday from 5 to 7 Central, 6 to 8 Eastern. And already started to plan that out. It should be a lot of fun. Brian Penton, never bet against Saban. Yeah, I did. I cashed that ticket, Brian. I did have Bama in the game. Picked Bama outright too. So, now I had Louisville. That didn't hit. Boy, Louisville's offense couldn't do a darn thing. Had the under in Michigan, Iowa, that hit. So, good day yesterday. Had Tulane, that did not hit. Michael Tolliver had Texas, that hit. Michael Tolliver, are those complaining that next year we'll be having the same argument for 10, 11, 12 spots as we are for 4, just annoying argument, more football is better. Yeah, more football is better, and again, you just don't have the same level of sympathy for number 11, 12, 13, 14 that you do for number 4, 5, 6, right? I mean, because somebody's Power 5 conference champion is getting left out of a playoff. That sucks. Make defense great again. They're going to let Bama in, and Nick's going to win another one. You see, if they let Bama in, and Bama's deserving. They're the SEC champion. They're 12-1. They beat Georgia. They won the best league in America. They got the best win in college football this year. They are deserving. They are deserving of being in a playoff. And I think Bama and Georgia are the 2 best teams in college football. So you can say, well, how can you have a playoff without the 2 best teams? Because college football. But similarly, if this is the system that you're going to employ, how can you look at a team that wins every game it plays, wins its conference, and doesn't get in a playoff? Like, what more can you do other than win every game you play? Phil G. Mike Leach said it should be at least 16, but should be 64 with a 10-game season. I'm for it. I've said it for a long time, Phil. Get rid of the games nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see LSU Army, LSU Georgia State, LSU Grambling. Get rid of those games. Get rid of those games. Play a 10-game Power 5 schedule and have a real playoff. H-Town Creole, I love chaos. Bama and Georgia should not be in the playoff. The tricky part of it, H-Town Creole, is you're going to tell me those aren't the 2 best teams in college football, because they are. So you're going to have a playoff without the best teams? What if Michigan had played Bama's schedule? What if Texas had to play Georgia yesterday? What if Washington had to play Bama or Georgia? What if Florida State had to play Bama or Georgia? You know what I mean? Again, there's an argument to be had on both sides, which is why you have to have a real playoff, which you don't have right now. Jacob Hibbert, I hope the college football playoff is as corrupt as they say, because Florida State is not going to be fun to watch. Murder Giraffe, what's up? 24 teams. I'd be down with 24 teams. I wanted 16. I wanted 16, but I celebrated the BCS because it opened the door to a real playoff. Instead of just having pollsters vote for who they felt was the best, you actually had a system that determined the 2 best teams, and they played. And the BCS was flawed, but at least it got us started. And I celebrated a 4-team playoff because it got us closer. It was the open door to getting us closer. I will celebrate 12 because 12 is better than 4, 4 is better than 2, 2 is better than what we had for 100 years. Chris Nelson, hypothetically, the Saints have a game today like Denver, Miami. Does DA and the staff, including Loomis, make it to the rest of the year? You mean like if they gave up 70? I don't think they're giving up 70 today. So, no. I mean, I don't know that Mrs. Benson is looking to make a change mid-season, especially when you look at the fact that the Saints are tied for first place in the division. I mean, that's a fact. As bad as they are and all the issues that we have, they're still tied for first place in the division. Let's see. Chris P, good morning. John Melanson, good morning. How's Drew? He's good, man. Thank you. Level up, man. It's not an argument. It should be Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Texas. The only reason there is a debate is because Alabama is involved. That's not true. Bama is, again, 12-1. They won the best league in America. And they have the best win in all of college football this year, beating Georgia and ending their 30-game win streak. So if that were any SEC team, if that were LSU, we'd be having this conversation. Like if LSU lost the opener to Florida State and ran the table the rest of the way, and were the team that beat Georgia yesterday, it'd be in the same situation as Bama. That had lost to Florida State. Let's see, watching the SEC championship game made me realize LSU really needs SEC-type players on defense. It took watching that game for you to realize that? Because I watched 12 games earlier this year that showed me they don't have that. Leon Williams is Fritz headed the U of H. That's what the report was yesterday. It was like right at kickoff of the Tulane game too. Was that he was going there. Then Willie Fritz disputes he's already reached an agreement. I don't know, man. The old non-denial denial. LSU Acadiana glad the worst division in America, Big Ten West, will get demolished after this year. Well, I'm glad all divisions are going to get demolished because divisions are pointless. There's no reason to have divisions in a conference. There isn't. Like the only reason that existed was to build a structure for a championship game, which is a money grab. And what's happened is you've artificially created inequitable schedules, like you just said, because the Big Ten West was atrocious. So those were inequitable. And then for a lot of the years in the SEC, the Big Ten or the SEC East was awful, with Vanderbilt and Kentucky and South Carolina. I mean, there's no reason to have divisions. Like, have a true rotating schedule where everybody plays everybody more often, and you have a regular season champion. You don't need a conference championship game. It does kind of amaze me how much people have just accepted the realities without ever asking why these realities are what they are. Like conference championship games. College football existed for 100 years without conference championship games. And then Roy Kramer, very smart, back in 1992 when the SEC expanded, said, hey, we can make money on this. We could put it on TV and get a TV partner and sell tickets and all that stuff. And they did. And they did it exceptionally well. And so everyone else just copycatted it. There's no need for a conference. Ask yourself, like, what good is there in having a conference championship game? I mean, some years you'll have ties, you'll have co-champions, and you have a tiebreaker. It happens. So just as an example, back-to-back comments. Texas is definitely in. It's between Bama and Florida State. There's no way Florida State needs to campaign for the college football playoff. They won their championship game with a third-string quarterback. Do you understand, like, just having this conversation is loony? That's what I think most people, whenever I talk about needing expanded playoff, don't understand. Like, it is patently absurd that you have to stump for a team to get into the playoffs. This isn't like on Selection Sunday in college basketball where Dick Vitale's screaming about some mid-major who should get a chance to go play in the big dance, and it's really just a reward for that team to be able to go play in the NCAA tournament. There's no real legitimate chance of them winning anything, but it's just a reward and something they deserve for having a good year, whatever. Like, we're talking about teams that are conference champions, undefeated, best teams in America, like, and they're not even going to get a chance. That's what's absurd about college football. Bradlin, Anderson, Matt. Hey, babe. This weekend we saw multiple teams in their conference championship game playing loads of freshmen. Do you feel we didn't do that enough? LSU played tons of freshmen, unfortunately. I mean, Your entire secondary was basically freshmen by the end of the season. Level up, man. Next year with the 12, who's going to decide the seeding? It's still nothing more than a dog and pony show. But, and sure, you have to have some way to select and seed. Fine. That's fine. But then you're having an argument about which team is in but gets a bye. Like, does Bama get a bye or does Florida State get a bye? That's the conversation we're having. Not, are they even going to have an opportunity? One, like the two are not the same. Like one is ridiculous. One is a benefit of having a really good season and earning a bye, but you're still in the playoff. So will there be conversations? Yes, but not to the level of like literally you don't even get a chance to be in the playoff. Like I don't know why that's so hard to understand for some people. Like, and by the way, that's also people like, oh, well then later in the season, teams will rest players or sit out. No, they won't, because you're going to be competing for either to get in, to get a bye, to get a home game. Like there's like on your campus, you can't see the distinct advantage of having a bye or playing a college football playoff game on campus in your stadium as opposed to have to going on the road to do that. Like, of course teams are going to try to win because there's advantages to all levels of that. But it's not the conversation of, are you even going to get in the playoff, which is stupid. Like the fact that they're going to have a college football playoff that won't have some combination of Georgia, Bama, Florida State, Texas, like Ohio State, it's stupid. Like you're going to have a playoff without the best teams in the country? Like what playoff is that? Shane Big Fella. Go Tigers. Tom Granted, good morning. Just landed back in BR from ATL. Great crowd last night, but the SEC with everything at the stadium. Mike Hardy all should have expanded to 8 this year. Willie Osborne, Texas versus Georgia, Michigan versus Alabama. Like, Willie, I believe those are the 4 best teams, but we play games, and the games on the field have to matter. And Florida State won all their games. And Washington won all their games, and they should be in. Chris Nelson, apologize for my rudeness. I forgot to say good morning, Matt, before my question. Thinking about the Saints playing today takes all the Southern hospitality out of me. Oh, man. See, now Carlos says Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Georgia. Georgia's not getting in. Georgia's done. They're cooked. They lost to Bama. They didn't win their conference. They have the same record as Bama. No, they're like, Georgia's cooked. They're out, which is also stupid. The 2-time defending national champion who had an undefeated season and lost to what might be the best team in the country right now doesn't get to go to the playoff. It's so stupid. Uncle Houdat, let's see, we will lose today with losses against Green Bay, Minnesota, Atlanta, and lost today. May get its top 10 draft picks. So I say it's time for a reset. The bullet this year and next year. Clean house. Go Tigers. Ohio State has the best loss. I think Georgia has the best loss. St. John, but why are we debating best loss? Lars Corville, the SEC had a playoff candidate and they lost yesterday. Still holding on to that stupid narrative, huh, Lars? Oh, every week's a playoff. It's so stupid. No, it's not, because the 2 best teams had to play each other yesterday. In a real playoff, Georgia would have drawn the number 12, whoever that would have been. Or in this scenario, Georgia would have drawn Florida State or Ohio State or something. They wouldn't have had to play Bama. Georgia would have played Iowa. How would that have gone? It's so stupid. Like, people that try, like, those of you that continue to just guzzle the college football Kool-Aid, this 4-team playoff, like the sacred regular season. You guzzle this Kool-Aid and you don't even realize that all they are doing is shoving talking points down your throat to justify their structure, which is completely financially based. They're not going to 12 because they think it's fair. Did you see the story this week from Front Office Sports? The college football playoff is looking at a Super Bowl model for the television rights, whereby it rotates like the Super Bowl does among its TV partners. So that way they're going to be able to generate what they think will be closer to Super Bowl level money for the college football playoff. Like, they're not going to 12 because they think it's fair. They're going to 12 because they finally figured out how to make more money doing it. It's the most sacred regular season in sports. Every game matters. Oh, really? Florida State wins every game they play, and they may not even have a chance to play for a playoff. Every game matters. Yeah. LSU against Army. LSU against Georgia State. LSU against Grambling. All those games matter, huh? They're money grabs. Like, why is this so hard for some of you to understand? The only reason those games exist is to collect a gate. That's it. Nobody wants to see them. They don't matter for anything. It's just to collect a gate receipt. That's it. And then the little brother who comes and gets their ass whipped gets a check. That's it. Behind whipped, excuse me. Anyway. Bama struggled with Auburn. End of discussion. Okay, well, Florida State just struggled with Louisville. End of discussion. Florida State struggled with Clemson. End of discussion. Who we struggle with. What about Texas? Texas needed a miracle to beat Kansas State in overtime. End of discussion. It's so stupid. What are you talking about? Everybody throughout the course of a season plays a close game. Georgia had a close game against Auburn. Oh, my God. Dal Barnett, morning, Matty, from Laverne, Oklahoma. Okay. I was rooting for Bama to win, so no SEC team would be in. Michigan win the Natty and have an asterisk because people deem it illegitimate since they cheat. People forget that over time, man. I wouldn't mind Florida State claiming a Natty if they get left out. Right, like UCF gets to claim a Natty. Oh, man. Jude, personally wouldn't mind watching Florida State get hosed after ruining my birthday weekend the last 2 years. Lewoski Watkins, how confident are you all the players on defense have another year of eligibility come back? Not at all. I have no idea. I don't know what those guys are thinking. We'll start to get some of those answers soon, but they were having exit meetings this last week. So, you know, the players that you're going to be keeping an eye on who have eligibility and could return, Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, Jacobian Guillory, Parrish Shand, Braden Swinson. Might be easier just to do the ones that are out of eligibility. So like Jordan Jefferson's out of eligibility, Ovie Ogofu's out of eligibility, Omar Spate's out of eligibility. Trying to think if there's anybody else. Lars, LSU's projected to play Wisconsin since Georgia lost. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Joe Simon. I think I have like a bajillion comments that I haven't gotten to. My apologies. Let me just go to the bottom and then kind of start to work my way back up to catch up. My apologies, y'all. Cortland, what's going on? Irfan Sayad. Go Tigers. Gulf South. Danny Braywick. I just want to see Bama fans melt down and Saban cry on every network. It would be epic. Jason Van Buskirk. Does Georgia loss force Notre Dame to another bowl? I think it's more so with the ACC. If Florida State is in, Notre Dame very likely goes to the Orange Bowl. So, yeah. I don't think LSU is going to play Notre Dame. It doesn't seem that way. Sweet. I'm blown away by how Bama folks wanted to fire Nick Saban. We're calling for his retirement. Derp. Let's see. Matt, is LSU offense a good fit for 1 year with KJ Jefferson? Sure. Ton of experience in the SEC. Versatile player. Good arm. Strong runner. Yeah. How does Georgia have the best loss? Number 8 Alabama, y'all on crack. If people are debating the best loss, that's just a stupid thing. Like, I don't care if you have the best loss. What are we talking about? Every year it's the same stupid thing, man. Who has the best loss, the best strength of record, the best? Because you got to debate it, because you can't just say, how about this? Let's go have a playoff, like a real playoff. Do you know how fun next year is going to be, y'all? It's going to be so fun next year to actually have a real playoff where games get determined on the field. Like, you know, like every other sport in the history of mankind that actually has a playoff. Austin Kidder, Matt, I used to guzzle the college football regular season Kool-Aid, but your rants in this season have turned me into a full-fledged playoff justice warrior. Let's see, Cortland, how awful was that lazy no-look toss by Beck? If Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, Florida State wins it all. I will respectfully disagree with you there. I think Florida State was good and Jordan Travis was good. I think they would have rightly been positioned fourth, as it stands, right, with all this. For something like that, I would tend to, like, that's when I would tend to just rely on, like, Vegas, where they would give you you know, they would do, like, hypothetical odds, right? Sorry, Florida State wouldn't have been favored over Georgia, Bama, Michigan, maybe Washington, because Washington's point spread value really dropped after the last month of the season. But anyway, Kate Granger, morning, Matt. Never thought I'd have to pick between hanging Christmas lights or watching the Saints. You should have called Got Lit light installers. Let them do it for you. Dylan, college football is down. No dominant team. Can't believe one of the worst Bama teams is going to have a chance to win it. I don't know that I would say there's no dominant team. Or let me rephrase. I wouldn't say college football is down. I think what you're seeing, and this is largely a result of the transfer portal, is you're seeing more parity because so for example, if you watched Florida State last night, Braden Fisk dominated that game. Braden Fisk, number 55, the defensive lineman who started his career at Western Michigan. He was a lightly recruited guy, went to Western Michigan, became a stud, and then spent this last year at Florida State. LSU desperately wanted Braden Fisk. How much of a difference would that guy have made on this LSU defense? Anyway, but he went to Florida State. Well, that made Florida State better, whereas that kid in the past would have just been at Western Michigan, right? So because of the transfer portal, you're seeing, you saw how many guys, look at the Bama-Georgia game yesterday. You had Bama players who transferred to Bama from Georgia, making significant plays to help Bama win that game. What if all those guys were playing at Georgia still? I think that's part of the reason why I think you're seeing just a more level playing field, because whereas the handful of teams that would gobble up all the 4 and 5 stars, after a year or two, if those players leave and go elsewhere, you're dividing the talent more evenly. That's not to say Bama and Georgia aren't still great. They are. But you're seeing Michigan and Florida State and all these other teams. I think you're seeing other teams elevate. I mean, do we just talk about quarterbacks? I mean, Oregon, Bo Nixon transfer. Washington, Michael Penix started his career at Indiana. Transfer, Jaden Daniels, transfer. Jordan Travis, transfer. Jordan Travis started his career at Louisville. Jason Van Buskirk, I'd love to see a 12-game playoff this season, man. That would be good. Imagine how that would look, Georgia and Bama would still be in. They just wouldn't get a bye. They'd be playing first-round home games. Gwen, good morning. Best of the family. Can you touch base on players leaving early? Only Neighbors and Thomas rated in the top 10 at their position. We can go on a couple of boards. Sounds like our depth chart could be better than usual next year. Yeah, I think so. You're re-recruiting your roster is important, Gwen. The guys that are obviously gone, underclassmen, Neighbors and Thomas are obviously gone. But it's more, I think, what you have to concern yourself with are the veteran guys that have a chance to come back or could go pro that are just ready to start their pro career, which happens. There are some guys that just want to go start their pro career. I mean, even if you go undrafted and you make a roster, which is not an easy thing to do, I'm just saying, if you do, remember, your rookie deal is 4 seasons, then you hit free agency. If you're drafted or if you go undrafted, it's I think if you're undrafted, I think it's a 3-year contract before they go to restricted free agency. Sorry, I'm not going to look this up. It's going to be too long. But anyway, point is you get to free agency quicker than if you're a first round pick when a team will have a 5th-year option. So they could pick up your 5th-year option and you don't get to free agency until year 6, unless they choose to give you an extension earlier, right? So some guys just choose to go pro early. They're just ready to go start their career. And you don't really know that until you get to the point. But look, LSU's entire offensive line could return. Turner could come back for his 6th season. Dellinger is a true junior, so he could come back for his 4th year. Frazier could come back for a 5th season. Josh Williams could come back for a 6th season. Noah Cain's out of eligibility. John Emery's out of eligibility. Kyron Lacey could come back. We talked about the defensive guys already, so don't know. All those guys are having their exit meetings, and we'll see, this week, and we'll see what some of their decisions are once we know the bowl game, and you'll start to have those announcements this week. If no SEC team gets in, SEC fans should boycott. Don't watch. Go hunting or fishing that day. That's what I'm doing. Thomas, I don't envy the committee. If you argue Georgia and Bama both in just because Vegas would favor them against the rest, then why play the games? Why not put Vegas top 4 teams from the beginning? That's the point. That's why I would lobby for Texas and Florida State. My 4 would be Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Florida State. That would be my 4. But I also think it's patently absurd that we all know Georgia and Bama are the 2 best teams in the country. And how can you have a legitimate playoff without the 2 best teams in the country? That are only eliminated because, or Georgia's would only be eliminated in theory because they played a conference championship game yesterday against the best opponent that anybody had to play in a conference championship game yesterday. What if Michigan had played Alabama yesterday? Is Michigan out today? Probably. Let's see, Gulf South, the guy who said Florida State doesn't deserve because they have a third-string quarterback. Ohio State won it all in 2014 with a third-string quarterback, so it's happened in the college football playoff era. It has. Well, Cardale was pretty good, though, in his opportunity. The kid last night for Florida State was terrible. But it's also worth noting that Tate Rodemaker is going to play in the playoff, right? I mean, he was out of this game because of concussion symptoms, but he'll be back for the playoff. So, Florida State, while they were playing a freshman in the game yesterday, in the playoff, they'll have a veteran player who's been there for 4 years. Shout out to Brock, y'all. Banner's Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do me a favor if you're there on YouTube, please smash that like button. 383 watching live. I love it. Only 90 likes, though. If you would just take a quick second, hit the little thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. If you're on mobile, you could just X out of the live chat, hit the thumbs up button, hit live chat again. The comments come right back. So appreciate y'all for that. And of course, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Hudco's pinned there in the chat. So actually, our phones, you'd imagine, I tell you this all the time. I don't know that you necessarily care, but whenever it rains, the Hudco phones just buzz all day. Just because when it rains is when people realize they got leaks. So commercial or residential, we'd love to help you out. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. You can always message me directly, too, if you want. I don't mind helping facilitate for you. So if you don't want to call the office or online submission is probably the easiest thing to do. Just go to the website. There's an online form. As soon as you fill it out, someone's going to call you and set up the inspection. But I'm happy to help. Brett Guidry, imagine qualifying for the World Cup, then a committee decides who goes to the World Cup by using the eye test. Committee is a joke. How many people viewed Georgia-Bama game? Had to be at least 20 million. I don't know that the game was, that the viewership would be that big. Go Tigers. And we won't get the TV numbers just yet. Sometimes you get overnights, but it takes several days for the full ratings to come in. Cortland, part of the problem is having 5 conferences and 4 spots. The discussion isn't as hard as next year if it were still a 14 playoff. The problem there, though, is you're assuming that it would just be 4 conference champions. And that's not always congruent. Like, the 4 best or 4 most deserving aren't always the conference champion. Like, think about Penn State. Was it 2016 Penn State? Penn State won the Big Ten. I thought it was in 2016. Let me see if I have this right. Yeah. So Penn State won the Big Ten that year, and they were 11-3. They lost at Pitt in a non-conference game, and they lost at Michigan. But they beat Ohio State, and their Michigan loss was 49-10, by the way. And they lost to Pitt 42-39. That was Matt Canada's team. Matt Canada was OC on that Pitt team. Anyway, but Penn State was a 2-loss team that went and won the Big Ten championship, beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship. So under your theory, that Penn State team, because they're a conference champion, would have been in. They didn't get in the 14 playoff, and Ohio State did. So, I mean, and I lobbied back in 2016 for Penn State. I was like, they beat Ohio State head-to-head. They won the conference championship. Like, that has to matter. And the committee decided they liked Ohio State better, so they put Ohio State in over Penn State, even though Penn State won the Big Ten and had a head-to-head. So, the point I've made forever is the committee's going to do whatever it wants. Like, y'all, we saw, going into yesterday, Texas was number 7, Bama was number 8. Y'all have seen this. I'm sure y'all have probably seen this stat floating around. All these things that have never happened with a committee that are probably all going to happen today. I thought I saw it. Dagnabbit. Like, sorry, y'all. Like, the team that was number one going into the championship weekend has never been left out. Georgia's probably going to be left out. An undefeated Power 5 conference champion has never been left out. Florida State could be left out. A team going into the weekend outside, I think, of the top 6 has never made it in. Well, Texas and Bama were 7 and 8. They both have an argument. So, it's just you're going to see some really unprecedented stuff today. Soulfinger12, get those likes up for our man Matt. Hit the like button and a few calories. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. We don't know. Let's see, Gulf South. We don't know what would happen if Washington played Georgia, but we do know what happened when Texas went to Tuscaloosa and played Bama. And I agree with you. Like, that's why I think Texas has to be in. Like, playing the games on the field has to matter. That's what, again, my 4, I don't have a vote, but I would say it's got to be Washington, Michigan. I had Wisconsin on the brain, so I just looked up the Penn State game. Florida State and Texas. Like, that's got to be the 4. Florida State won every game they played. If Texas goes to Tuscaloosa and wins. If Bama's in and Texas is not, then, like, why even bother scheduling that game? Like, what is the point? What is the point in putting that game on the schedule? You have completely disincentivized a team from challenging themselves because you're saying even if you win that game, the committee's going to do whatever they want anyway. College football, y'all. You know what sports we don't have to have these conversations about? All of the other sports in the history of the world. Eddie Van Gundy. Texas played 2 good teams all year, went 1-1. That's not true. Texas played number 3 Alabama on the road. They played Kansas when they were ranked 24th. They played Oklahoma when they were ranked 12th. They beat Kansas State when they were ranked 23rd, and they just beat 18th ranked Oklahoma. So they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 25 games. No more Gary Danielson, yay. So I don't hate Gary the way many of y'all do. I think Gary's actually one of the best in-game analysts ever. Fans, I think, got tired of Gary because you all assumed that he was just a giant Bama homer, which when you call games for a conference and during the period in which you're calling games, Bama goes on the greatest dynastic run in the history of the sport, you're going to call a lot of that team's games and they're going to win a lot of them and be really good. So you're going to say a lot of nice things about them, which he did. But as far as an in-game analyst and knowing the game and being able to comment real time, I think there's few better. He's awesome. All right, smash that like button, y'all, if you would. Appreciate y'all for being here. Ooh, I saw someone say I need a roof. Hang on, who is that? I'm doing business here, y'all. Tigerbait 1998. I need a roof. Holler at me, Tigerbait 1998. Matt at HUDCORoofing.com. M-A-T-T, Matt at HUDCORoofing.com. Or text me on my text line, 225-396-4400, 396-4400. Would happily do that. Oh, let's see. Was it 2 years ago when Michigan got destroyed by Georgia in the playoff? Drew Brees called for a play-in, Florida State against Bama. Was it Brees or was it Dusty David Pollock? Who was it? No, I don't think it was Brees. Someone called for a play-in. But I'd be for it. Like, you got to give people a chance to go win a game, man. Anyway. Elijah Steele, have you seen where apparently one of the college football playoff criteria is unavailability of key players that may affect postseason performance? I saw a screenshot on Twitter, so don't quote me. Well, that's the conversation being had about Florida State without Jordan Travis, obviously. I remember that one time in basketball, and there's probably others, so like you all may remember something that I'm forgetting right now, but the one time I really remember in basketball was Kenyon Martin. It was the 99 NCAA tournament. Kenyon Martin was the best player in the country, and he played for Cincinnati at the time. And he broke his leg in the conference championship, the conference tournament. And as a result, I think Cincinnati was undefeated that year. They were either undefeated or one loss. Maybe they were undefeated. Duke had one loss. Duke's only loss was to Cincinnati, I want to say. That was a great Duke team. I mean, Trajan Langdon was on that Duke team. Elton Brand. And they ended up losing. Duke ended up losing the national championship to Michigan State with Khalid El-Amin. That was 2000. So it was 2000. Not 99. That was 2000. Right? Or was that UConn in 99? Anyway, it was Kenyon Martin. I'm getting sideways. It was Kenyon Martin. Oh, look at the snow in Lambeau. Sorry, I'm losing my focus. Chiefs, Packers in the snow. That'll be fun today. So anyway, point is the committee dinged Cincinnati because Kenyon Martin had broke his leg. He was out. Cincinnati wasn't the same team. That was basketball. We'll see if they do the same thing with football with Jordan Travis. FSU probably wouldn't beat LSU as they are now. That's fair. LSU Tulane would be fun. I don't think we're going to see that. Danny Braywick, if Jaden plays in the bowl game, LSU plays Iowa, are you putting money on the over? I did see somebody tweet that LSU and Iowa should match up in the bowl game just to see what the point spread would be. And I can't say I would put money on the over until I know what the total would be. But it would be a lot higher than 23, or I think yesterday's total was 35. The thing about it is if LSU played Iowa, Iowa would score points because everybody scores points against LSU. Let's see, Cortland, is Mizzou better than LSU? They played on the field. LSU won. The Florida State defense looked good last night. I give them props. They really are good. They're talented. They needed to step up and have a big day, and they did. Good for them. I'm with you. They should be in. They should. I am telling you, Bama and Georgia should not be in this format as it exists. They should not be in. Period. Paragraph. It is fundamentally absurd to have a playoff that does not include the two best teams, and I believe that Georgia and Alabama are the two best teams right now in college football. Period. Paragraph. I can't wait for a real playoff. Jeff Hawk, good morning. Matt, has there been a time or times when someone was the odds favorite as much as Jaden and still didn't win? So Scotty, that's tough because we just know now, right? When in a different era, voting for the Heisman wasn't online. You couldn't vote online. You had to mail in your ballot. And then you also had, you didn't have Twitter and things like that where people were publicizing their ballot. And there wasn't as much action. Like sports betting wasn't as common, so there wasn't as much action, right? So I'm not trying to dodge your question. I'm just saying it's just really uncommon, if ever, that by the time the Heisman ceremony is happening, we already know who the winner is now. There was a guy, let me see if I still remember this guy's name. I think it's Chris Hudson. There was a website called like Heisman Pundit or something like that. That's it. Chris Huston. Huston, Huston. There it is. Chris Huston. So Chris Huston, there it is. Found him. So Chris Huston, so this guy had a website called Heisman Pundit, and he basically did a ton of legwork every year and looked at all of the analytics and got in touch with as many voters as he could and whatever. And he would every year put out a prediction of how the balloting would go for the Heisman, and he was right. So he was like, and he was getting to where like he was getting the percentages and the point totals right. Like he hacked it essentially. And he didn't do it to be nefarious. He did it because he just loved the Heisman Trophy. And so in order to get him to stop, the Heisman hired him. They said, like, we just want you to create Heisman content for us. So now I'm looking at this thing right now. He does the official Heisman Trophy podcast. Before, he was also doing content for the Heisman website and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I guess my point is, because I remember this because I think I maybe talked to him for the first time. As I think back through this, y'all, I think I talked to him in 2007. Because if you remember, in 2007, there was a big Glenn Dorsey for Heisman push. Like, he was very clearly the best defensive player in the country. And, there was this push to try to get Glenn more Heisman notoriety. And so I think that's when I talked to that guy for the first time. I know I'm going down a tangent. But anyway, so Scotty, is there a chance that someone was the betting favorite and didn't win it? Somewhere along the way, yes, I'm sure, but not recently, and certainly by Monday. So so if you look at all of the I'll screen grab Heisman odds at DraftKings. I'll tweet them or share them. And if you see it, some people have asked this. It says like Monday 3:55. Well, normally that time that would be like the start time of the event. So that's clearly like when the balloting closes for the Heisman. So there's no sense in taking wagers after that because the balloting's done. It can't change. Like it's been decided now. It's just a matter of what the balloting says. So long way of not answering your question, but no, I don't. No, there's nobody that would be as big of a betting favorite as Jaden at this point that would lose the Heisman. All the games have been played. The balloting is done tomorrow. It's done. All right, smash that like button if you would. Jason, I know the Saints never go after a quarterback in the first round, but if they are in position, they would need to seriously consider Jaden. That would rejuvenate the fan base. Listen, I love Jaden Daniels. I would love it if Jaden Daniels was in New Orleans. I just want the Saints to draft a quarterback in round one. They don't have to love Jaden Daniels, but it's a deep quarterback class. I would love for them to take a quarterback. Jaden may be off the board by the time the Saints pick, y'all. I mean, the way he's going, I saw a mock draft from Dane Brugler with The Athletic that had Jaden Daniels going number 7 to Tampa. Well, the Saints ain't picking 7th. If he's off the board in the top 10, Saints are going to have a chance to draft him. Fisk and Verse dominated that game like they did against FSU or against LSU. Do you think if we get blown out, there will be fired Dennis Allen, fired Pete Chance? I think there will absolutely be boos. And that crowd in the Dome can and will turn on the home team. And you may see that today. D. Seussberry. Mike Hardyall, how are we going to react when Tulane makes the playoff before LSU? Could have happened this year. If they won the conference, it expanded this year. But they didn't win their conference, and it didn't expand this year. And I don't think any team from the American should ever make the playoff. You should not get to play that week of a schedule and make a playoff. I know there's a lot of people that disagree with me. It's not an anti-Tulane thing. It's an anti-group of five thing. Cold case, they need a yearly commitment for NIL from the richest person in Louisiana, Todd. Todd Graves isn't the richest person in Louisiana. And the thing to remember, I know because I've had this conversation, not only about Canes, but about a lot of different businesses with respect to NIL. What you forget is, so first of all, yes, Todd Graves is from Baton Rouge. Todd Graves went to Georgia. A lot of people don't know that. Like he got his degree from the University of Georgia. He went to Episcopal in Baton Rouge, went to Georgia, and then afterwards, did some odd jobs like, ice fishing in Alaska and all that sort of stuff. The crab, the deadliest catch thing, did that in Alaska, made money, and then opened Canes. But the other thing, too, is you gotta keep in mind, there are Canes restaurants in every college town. So if Todd Graves was just funneling money into LSU, every other college town athletic department they have deals with would be sitting there with their arms folded going, what about us? Anyway. Imagine a 12-team playoff this year. The Liberty Tulane spot means more. Let's see. High organic and inorganic beings. Okay. Ben, what metrics will the committee use to determine the 12 next year? I'm sure it'd be the same thing they do now. Chicken Man worth $7.6 billion. Glad he loves LSU. That's completely not true. I think his net worth just touched $1 billion. I see this thing that says he has a net worth of $7.6 billion. I don't think that's true. I know it's Bloomberg. I saw the thing whenever that was a couple weeks ago. I would love to know. I would love to know see, this is Bloomberg. So there's a lot of different ways that things like this with net worth are measured. I don't think this is right. For a lot of different reasons. But let's suffice to say, Todd Graves has a lot of money. But he doesn't focus it all on LSU. 12 games will be fun. It'll bring new matchups, campus playoff games, but games like LSU USC next year won't be as meaningful as LSU Florida State this year. You see, Gulf South, I just fundamentally disagree with you. When LSU is in Vegas next year for the opener, you're going to tell me that there isn't going to be an incredible atmosphere for that? It's still going to be LSU USC for the first time since 79 or whenever the last time they played. I know they played Baton Rouge in 79, whenever LSU went out there and played. It's not going to mean any less because you're still you're still fighting for the most impactful regular season you could have that would lend yourself to all the things we talked about, a bye, a home game, or getting in the playoff. And all of those things build your resume for it. The flip side of it is, if you tell me that every week is a playoff in college football, which is stupid because Florida State won every game and they're sweating it out today, which is dumb. Then you're telling me that LSU season ended Labor Day weekend the last 2 years. So why even bother playing? I mean, look at LSU last year against Alabama. I mean, LSU wasn't winning a national championship last year. They beat Alabama. Everybody stormed the field, went bonkers because it was an awesome game. I mean, you don't remove yourself from the moment when you're living in it, and it's still going to matter, man. Jaleel Dean, Jaden wins the Heisman. Georgia, Bama get left out. This is how I win. Oh, man. You see, this said, if it was a 12-team playoff right now, is LSU in? I don't know. But we'd be watching those votes with a lot more keen interest because you're right there. We would have been watching the final weekend of the regular season and yesterday with much greater interest because it could have affected LSU's opportunity to get in. Yeah. Look at Randy Moss. What a freak show. Ooh, with those socks too, and Marshall. Are we still calling Pac-12 a conference next year? No. Teddy Bruschi at Arizona. Look at him. 95. We're at number 68. That's so good. David Joseph, morning, Matt. We get to find out which team will get messed over by the College Football Playoff Committee in about 30 minutes, probably Florida State or Texas. And I wanted a 6 or 8 team playoff. Thank God this is the last year for this friggin' playoff system. Can't wait for next year. If FSU is left out, I will not watch the playoffs. David Joseph, the empty stats emperor, better not mess up our Sunday today. The empty yards emperor, yards. Get his title right, lest you be headed. Lest you are beheaded. As AD says, we got to play better. That's how we beat the Lions. Yeah, Dave Aranda survived being fired at Baylor. Cortland, I've seen some people say Florida State gets in at 4. If the metric is undefeated conference champion, then Florida State should be 3. If they get jumped by one team, they should be jumped by 2 teams. I don't know necessarily that that's the only metric with how they determine. I think they're also trying to determine what matchups they want as well. And don't think for a second that's not part of it. Like, if Texas is in, you better believe that they are aching for a Texas-Michigan national championship. Because if you get those 2 brands, so it would probably go Michigan, Washington, Texas, Florida State is probably how it would go. And so Michigan, Florida State would play in the Rose Bowl. Well, yes. And then Washington, Texas would be in the Sugar Bowl. That's probably how it will go. Let's see. So if the Falcons win today and the Saints lose, can we finally stop considering Saints in playoff scenarios? No, because you got plenty of meat left on the bone, and the Falcons are just as liable to go on a 3-game losing streak as the Saints are. So far from over. I mean, they're tied right now in the win-loss column. It's just that Atlanta's got the tiebreaker because of their division record. All right. A few more here, y'all. It's 11. I'm going to go listen to Jimmy Ott's Football Sunday and get our last few picks for the day, and hope we have a good Sunday. Do me a favor, please smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe up to the channel. As always, shout out to Brock and Need North Peters. They're the best. HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. Your rant on the defensive piece and Cincinnati is all time. That was 2019. Cincinnati. Playoff committee is receiving a lot of hate. They have an impossible job. The real culprits are the old men in suits, university presidents who have prevented a real playoff. That's true. But everyone on the committee has accepted an appointment on the committee. And they could have said, nah, I'm not interested. Mayhem Santana, ESPN just dropped those rankings. Is that... So did they, but is that, those FPI, so like, okay, never mind, here's the AP. All right, so here's the AP top 25. Michigan, Washington, Texas, Florida State as your top 4 AP. Bama, Georgia, 5, 6, Ohio State, 7, Oregon, 8, Missouri, 9, Penn State, Ole Miss, 11, Oklahoma, LSU, 13. All right, y'all. Cincinnati was in 2019. I thought it was a COVID rant. No, that was there in 2019. There was a here's the selection show. In 2019, there was a week where the committee leaped Ohio State over LSU, and part of their reasoning was Ohio State was the defensive piece and Ohio State's win over Cincinnati. And that's when I went on the Cincinnati rant. All right. Yeah. Playoff selection show starting right now on ESPN. It's so weird. Oh, so I guess they started early. That's why NFL Countdown started early, was because this was starting at 11. So, is this an hour-long show, or are they just going to hurry up and do it?
Going to have to make some tough calls that will make and break some dreams.
I was going to say we could sit here and do this together. Watch this together. Anyway, if Florida State gets left out of the ACC by Christmas, I don't know. All right, any more? Chris P., how many turnovers do you think the defense will get today? I don't know. Shaq's Big Chicken Restaurant is good, in case you haven't been to the one in BR yet. I have actually, inside the new, the Queen Casino. They did a great job with the Queen, by the way, for those that are interested. If you haven't been out there, if you're in Baton Rouge, the Queen Casino, they did a fantastic job. I think it's the old Hollywood. I mean, the renovations in there, the DraftKings Sportsbook, the DraftKings Sportsbook, the sports bar, and the restaurant in there are phenomenal. TV places everywhere, tons of wide, like open air spaces, not open air, but just open spaces. They have a loft in the restaurant where you can look down at a giant screen. It's really, really cool if you haven't been. I'm not just saying that because of DraftKings. It's a DraftKings Sportsbook, and I obviously endorse DraftKings, but I'm not just saying that because like they really did a pretty sensational job with that renovation. And they have Shaq's restaurant in there as well. Anyway. And now y'all getting all the fried chicken. I miss the chicken back and forth. Let's see. No, I'm dead serious. I'm guessing that's about the Canes thing. I'm dead serious. Like, I saw the Bloomberg article. Suffice to say, there's just some stuff I'm not comfortable saying, but I don't believe that number is accurate. And I don't believe Todd Graves is the richest person in Louisiana. The richest person in Louisiana, it's not even Gail Benson. The richest person in Louisiana is someone who no one ever mentions when they talk about the richest people, and it's not Jim Bernhardt. Anyway. Catch me one day at Don Juan and ask me that question. We'll have that conversation. I won't have it here. Anyway, all right. It's not after further review. This is a whole different show. This is called Morning Scone. Wait, is the selection show really 4 hours? Oh no, you know what it is? They announce. I think they announce the 4 teams, and then it's like they do like recap throughout the day and previews of the games and all that sort of stuff. This can't be 4 hours. Okay, all right, let's be done. I'm going to go. Jimmy Odds Football Sunday's on right now. I need to go get our picks from Andy Isco and Paul Nolan coming up here in about 15 minutes from right now. So, no, Clayton, it's not Richard Lipsy either. Anyway, y'all have a great day, and we'll see you later. Go Tigers.